Hello, welcome to CIO Leadership Live New Zealand. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, Editorial Director in ANZ for Foundry. On today's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Partington, who is Director for Digital and Technology at Skills Consulting Group. Kia ora, Tim. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Always good to chat to you, Tim. And look, I'd love to hear a bit more about your career today. So tell us about, how you got your start in IT and what some of your career milestones have been.
I suppose, like some of the other people that have been on the podcast, I had an interesting background to land in digital and technology. I was heavily down the hotel management path in the several decades ago, and an opportunity popped up for me to join a technology company. So I had very much a decision to make, one of those Y path decisions, which was, do I further my career in Macau at the time and working for the Hyatt Group, or do I join the technology company? And I chose the technology company because it just was on the cusp of the PC age. It was exciting, it was new, and the opportunity just seemed quite incredible for career growth.
And where did you go on to then?
From there, I was based in Australia, and I was working based in Australia, and I was fortunate enough to travel around the globe as a systems analyst, eventually becoming a senior systems analyst, and met an array of businesses and organisations whilst I was travelling around the world implementing an ERP platform. I think one of the highlights of that was implementing a system which effectively ran Hayman Island from marine craft all the way through to their hotel bookings, their materials management. It was a one-stop shop, one-stop system, and it was quite eye-opening to see the transformation of an analog island being converted to a digital environment. So an incredible time.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure that experience that you've had in hospitality as well has given you such a view of the customer and the importance of customer service. So look, you're now Director of Digital and Technology at Skills Consulting Group. So tell us a bit more about the organization. Can you tell us a bit about its purpose and what you and your team look after there?
I'd love to. I'll try and keep it as short as I possibly can. Skills has been around since 1992. It started its life out as an industry training organisation known as EITO. It was the Electrical Industry Training Organisation. And over the years, it worked with numerous businesses and member organisations to help grow the capability of all of their learners. So I was heavily focused on trades. In half a dozen years ago, the government decided to implement the ROVE initiative, which was the reorganisation of the vocational establishments, which is the genesis of what Tipu Kanga was created to become. And Skills was one of the organisations as an ITO that was due to either fold its services into Tipu Kanga or choose a different path. The board determined that they wanted to create a training organisation, and as a result of that, they started acquiring training organisations. Those then found us having acquired companies such as eTech, Ignite Colleges, Premier Hairdressing, Soft Education, Harrington Vaughan, about half a dozen different training organisations covering a different array of trades and corporate training services. And so as of the 1st of October in 2022, Skills Consulting Group no longer existed as an ITO and overnight turned into a group of training organisations. And so with a vision of being a global leader in maximising human potential.
So tell us then about your team and how you support the wider organisation.
Well, we had to go through quite a significant transformation program. The team today is very different to what it was when I first took over. We support all digital and technology capabilities of the organisation, including learning capabilities, back-end infrastructure, all of the applications that support the operational components of the varying complex business units, short trade courses, detailed apprenticeship courses. We cover a vast array of remote training requirements as well as campus-based learning capability.
So quite a wide range there. Can you tell us a bit more about your digitalization journey? You said you've been going through, that massive transformation. So what have been some of the key achievements in recent years?
Well, I was very fortunate to be in a position to move our tech debt out of the way. A lot of organisations, as you're well aware, have struggled because of the tech debt they've had to deal with. And so as a result of being able to move our tech debt away, I was in a position to build a brand new greenfields infrastructure and application environment. That meant that I could build applications that were current, that were fit for purpose, that aligned to the business requirements, that allowed us to essentially convert on one day into an entirely new organisation, albeit with a pretty tight time frame.
So then how do you align those IT initiatives with that overall business strategy, mission of the organisation?
Definitely business-led. Whilst the technology group have to support the business, enable the business, it's important that we align our business support services to ensure that they're aimed at supporting the strategic goals of the organisation. What's important for us is because we're an organisation with different services, we cover trade training, we cover corporate training services, and we're also an EAP service provider. So each of those service capabilities have different technical requirements, whether it be a large virtual training environment for the corporate services, or, as I talked about earlier, the in-classroom requirements for the trade-based training. So we definitely ensure that our strategy, the technical and digital strategy, supports the business intent.
So when it comes to emerging technologies then, Tim, I know you've been experimenting with a few things. So what's your approach there when it comes to things like, AI, automation, Internet of Things, any of the other new toys that are out and about? How do you approach that?
I'd say carefully. We've got education requires a lot of rigor in its process to ensure that certifications are achieved. So we need to ensure that the technology that we employ supports the learning experience or helps accelerate the learning experience and also helps us enable the business. We've got to have an environment that allows us to correctly test it, to evaluate it, what technology is going to work correctly, what technology is going to be of benefit to the learners. It's key for us to make sure that we assess each of the technology requirements, because in this day and age, with the amount of change that we're dealing with, there is a lot of demand to ensure that we're running with the latest toys, but we can't always have the bright, shiny objects immediately. So in that case, we try and evaluate and make sure that they are fit for purpose, that there is a valid business case that supports why would we want to implement that technology.
So then, Tim, can you tell us, how do you balance that need for, looking at these emerging trends, cutting edge technology, all the stuff that's coming out? How do you balance that with the importance of also maintaining your existing IT infrastructure, that legacy technology and systems?
We're very fortunate, because of the tech debt that we no longer carry, that we were able to build a lot of, all of our platforms were fit for purpose. So then new technology becomes iterative and not revolutionary. And so how does the organisation evolve with the new technology versus executing a major transformation? We've already completed the transformation exercise. So now the technology approach is, as I said, it's iterative. It allows us to carefully assess the new technologies that are available and align those to, will they increase revenue? Will they decrease cost? Will they create a better customer experience? Will they create better efficiencies for the organisation? And so each of those are evaluated on their own merits and how they will support the business transformation and growth strategic plans.
And of course, cybersecurity is always a hot topic. So tell us about your approach to cybersecurity. How do you ensure, that security and that the privacy of the data in your IT systems?
Security and cybersecurity, customer data is for me quite sacrosanct. It's an absolutely critical element for us to provide confidence with our user community, our learners, that we are the gatekeepers and the caretakers of their information. As an EAP service provider, we hold a lot of private and personal information. And so it's very critical that we have very strong and secure platforms, partners, and testing capability to ensure that we are absolutely at the top of our game. I have to protect the board. I have to protect the executive managers to ensure that their liabilities are mitigated as much as possible. So having worked in non-bank finance, investor files, AML, it's critical for a business to make sure that our customers' data is really protected.
So you mentioned there that, you use some partners as well when it comes to cybersecurity, and I'm sure more widely than that. So keen to get your thoughts on, from your point of view, what does a good partnership look like? What are you looking for when you go out to market and you're talking to technology providers?
I recently had to do that. It was a great question. I recently had to do that as part of the transformation program. And I set about on a particular strategy. Number one for me is NZ Inc. If I can source a New Zealand organisation and company and service provider to deliver the services and platforms or applications that we need, then they certainly get to the top of the list. Size is also very important for me, having come from a managed services background as well. I understand the need to balance how important we are to a service provider and not just be one of the numbers. So in selecting service partners, I look for NZ Inc., capability, customer engagement, alignment of values, and how important we will become in that partnership and supplier buyer relationship over the term of the engagement.
Now, your overall mission at Skills is, training and helping people develop, but really keen to hear about, for you with your own team, how do you create that environment where you help people feel like they're growing and reaching their full potential?
Well, as a training organisation, we have to embody and live the values for our internal teams. So training and education of the internal teams is just as important as what we do for our external learners. So I always see an opportunity to grow individuals inside the digital and technology environments. Some people will come in at particular levels, and it gives me a lot of joy to see them grow and expand with training, with challenges, with exposure to different environments, cross-collaboration, the development of a team and the development of individuals through supportive, and for me as a servant leader, it's critical that they get the right opportunities to grow and succeed.
Great to hear. And look, the other thing that's really important when it comes to a successful team is diversity. So really keen to get your thoughts on, how we increase the representation in IT teams. Are there any practical things that can be done to make IT a more attractive career to minds of all kinds, to people from different communities? What are you thinking about when you're going out and looking at that?
It's a constant challenge for all of us in the industry. And we certainly, as an education, vocational education and a training environment, look to understand how we can increase individuals' capabilities. So to do that, they need to have an opportunity to learn. And quite often their socioeconomic or their family circumstances or their geographic locations don't enable them to go through a learning process. And we're a huge fan of what the UK has done in respect to the growth of apprenticeships. You can do an apprenticeship, you can become a lawyer via an apprenticeship, you can become an engineer, you can clearly do an IT apprenticeship. So the ability to earn while you're learning, and the old traditional apprenticeship model is now expanding enormously to enable individuals to access formal training services while still hopefully being able to live their lives or support their families. And so there needs to be some flexibility, but certainly the apprenticeship model, I think, creates an opportunity for diverse individuals to begin their IT journey. I'm really fortunate. I've got half a dozen. I've got a very diverse team. I've got half a dozen women in my team. I have individuals who are on spectrum. I have an array of ages, and so the diversity within the group is really, it's important to me. It's important to me that you have the right technical capability, but that shouldn't be a limitation. Very, very much a diverse approach has to be maintained across the industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. And some great points there around IT apprenticeships. I think that's definitely something that we need to focus more on here in New Zealand. So look, what advice would you give, Tim, to someone who is aspiring to be a senior IT leader, a CIO, a CDO, a CTO, all the variety of titles that are out there? What have you learned along the way that you would pass on to someone looking for one of those roles?
I think don't be limited with your previous choices or your previous career. There are so many paths to the leadership roles within technology, whether it's, as you pointed out, whether it's technical, whether it's strategy, whether it's architecture. There are a lot of paths to that objective. I certainly think finding a great mentor to work with to help you on that journey is important. Ensuring that you work with organisations that support your values and you work well to get the best out of you. I think that there is opportunities available to grow and learn. Don't limit where you can see those opportunities. Don't geographically limit them. You'll be surprised how many people should or could leave the border, get a couple of years experience overseas, and then bring that experience back into New Zealand. Super important that we foster the future generation of our leaders and provide them with the right support and mechanisms to get there.
Absolutely. And look, finally, what's important to you in the months ahead? Do you have any exciting initiatives that you and the team have in the pipeline?
Yeah, well, I'll briefly touch on some of the technology stuff that we've got our eye on. Skills is one of the very few organisations that use HoloLenses in our learning environment. We use it in the plumbing, gas fitting, and drain laying classroom environment. There are a number of modules that the apprentices go through in a safe environment using that type of technology. But as you can appreciate, those HoloLenses are expensive and not really fit for purpose in the field. So we've started looking at assisted reality units, and those units are used across the ditch over in the mines. Some of them are used locally here, but they're certainly a field fit device that allows voice command control of a camera, which means that a mentor or an assessor can be in contact with a learner whilst they're on job executing an exercise. We can then use that to upload evidence of their competency into their learning management records. And so we're exploring how do we create that efficiency and that engagement given the difficulties in getting around the country nowadays, and certainly the time of travel, the time it takes to travel, the efforts required. So the assisted reality is definitely going to take us a step ahead. And Gen AI is, by all means, definitely on our roadmap. We see the opportunity for things like in-process or in-flight learning consumption that automatically adapts to learning difficulties. Perhaps your first language is not English, and so we'll be able to monitor that the questions you're taking a little bit too long to answer those, so we may automatically prompt for those to be translated to perhaps your primary language, so that you can then improve your learning experience, and we don't have to create 27 versions of the same piece of text. We can convert that on the fly, so that you can create this bespoke learning path for individuals where we can accelerate where their learning is challenged, I think, by language. We see lots of heavy lifting capability that Gen AI will take care of, the development of complex training courses. So we're looking at how those can really create an integrated learning environment for all of our learners.
That's very cool. And I'm sure you'll have a lot more people signing up for those courses when they get to play around with assisted reality too. Tim Partington, Director of Digital and Technology at Skills Consulting Group, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Kathy. Really appreciate it.